In the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, on a rain-soaked evening in the heart of the bustling city, a young girl named Lila huddled against the cold brick wall of a luxurious restaurant, her thin jacket doing little to shield her from the relentless downpour. Her stomach twisted in agonizing knots, a hollow emptiness that had become her constant companion after days without a proper meal, her eyes hollow with the weight of despair as passers-by hurried past, their umbrellas shielding them from her silent plea for help. At just 19, life had stripped her of everything: family, home, hope, and now, as the aroma of gourmet dishes wafted from the restaurant's open door, she wondered if this was the night hunger would finally claim her. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing a time when compassion changed your life. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth. And don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Tales for more stories that touch the soul and inspire the heart. Lila's story began in a small, forgotten town on the outskirts of the city, where dreams were as scarce as opportunities. Born to a single mother who worked tirelessly in a factory, Lila had known hardship from her earliest memories. The creak of worn floorboards in their tiny apartment, the echo of empty cupboards, and the constant fear of eviction notices taped to the door. Her mother, with callous hands and a weary smile, had been her anchor, teaching her to find joy in simple things like wildflowers picked from cracked sidewalks or stories whispered under threadbare blankets. But when illness struck, swift and merciless, it took her mother away in a blur of hospital bills and unanswered prayers, leaving Lila orphaned at 15. The system swallowed her whole, bouncing her between foster homes where she was just another face, another mouth to feed, until she aged out at 18 with nothing but a backpack of faded clothes and a heart scarred by loss. Drifting into the city with naive hopes of finding work, Lila quickly learned the harsh reality of survival on the streets. She pounded pavements for jobs, her resume a thin sheet of paper listing odd gigs from her teenage years, babysitting neighbors' kids, cleaning motel rooms, but employers glanced at her rumpled appearance and turned away, their excuses polite masks for indifference. Days blurred into nights as she scavenged for scraps in alleyways, her once bright eyes dimming with each rejection. Sleep came in fits on park benches or under overpasses, where the cold seeped into her bones like an unwelcome intruder. Hunger was the worst enemy, a gnawing beast that clawed at her insides, making her weak and dizzy, her thoughts foggy with desperation. She had tried begging once, holding out a trembling hand to strangers, but the shame burned hotter than the need, so she stopped, preferring to fade into the shadows instead. On this particular night, as thunder rumbled overhead like a distant warning, Lila had positioned herself near the upscale restaurant called Elysium, drawn by the warmth spilling from its windows and the faint hope that someone might discard leftovers. She watched elegantly dressed patrons enter and exit, their laughter a cruel contrast to her solitude, and she pressed her back against the wall, pulling her knees to her chest to conserve what little body heat remained. Inside Elysium, the air was thick with the scent of truffle oil and aged wine, crystal chandeliers casting a golden hue over tables draped in fine linen. Alexander Voss, a billionaire tech mogul whose empire spanned continents, sat alone at his usual corner booth, nursing a glass of scotch as he reviewed merger documents on his tablet. At 55, Alexander was a man forged in the fires of ambition, rising from humble beginnings in a coal mining town to build a fortune through innovative software that revolutionized industries. Yet, success had come at a cost: divorces, estranged children, and a loneliness that no amount of wealth could fill. His days were filled with board meetings and private jets, but nights like this reminded him of the void, the empty mansion waiting for him on the hill. As he glanced out the window, his eyes caught on the huddled figure outside, rain matting her hair to her face, her frame so fragile it seemed the wind might carry her away. Something stirred in him, A flicker of recognition perhaps, or maybe just the ghost of his own past struggles when he had scraped by on ramen in dreams. He signaled the waiter, his voice steady but soft, inquiring about the girl outside, and upon learning she had been there for hours, he made a decision that would alter both their lives. The restaurant door swung open, and a waiter approached Lila with an umbrella, his expression kind but hesitant. She looked up, startled, expecting to be shooed away like so many times before, but instead, he extended an invitation from the gentleman inside. Lila's heart pounded, suspicion warring with the ache in her belly. Could this be a trick? Or worse, something sinister? But the rain intensified, and the promise of warmth pulled her forward like a lifeline. She rose on unsteady legs, following him into the opulent space, where the sudden hush of luxury enveloped her. Heads turned, whispers rippling through the diners, but Alexander stood, his tall frame exuding quiet authority, and gestured to the seat across from him. No words were exchanged at first. He simply nodded to the menu, encouraging her to order whatever she desired. Lila's hands trembled as she pointed to simple items: soup, bread, something warm to chase away the chill. And as the food arrived, steam rising like a benediction, she ate slowly at first, then with the fervor of someone who had forgotten the taste of plenty. Alexander watched, not with pity, but with the empathy born from his own hungry nights long ago, and as the meal progressed, he began to share fragments of his story, drawing her out with gentle questions that coaxed her to open up. As the evening unfolded, the barriers between them crumbled like old walls giving way to sunlight. Lila spoke of her mother's unwavering love, the way she had sung lullabies even on the darkest days, and the crushing grief that followed her loss. She described the foster homes, each one a temporary cage where kindness was rationed like food stamps, and the streets that had become her reluctant teacher, hardening her resolve while softening her trust. Alexander listened, his usual stoic demeanor cracking as memories of his own youth surfaced. Losing his father to a mining accident, supporting his family with odd jobs, the relentless drive that propelled him to success but left him isolated. He saw in Lila a reflection of his younger self, resilient yet vulnerable, and an unspoken bond formed over shared plates and quiet revelations. The suspense built subtly, as Lila wondered if this was a fleeting act of charity or something more, her mind racing with fears of what came next. Would he vanish like everyone else, leaving her to the cold once more? But Alexander, moved by her spirit, offered more than a meal. He proposed a path forward, starting with a safe place to stay in one of his company's transitional housing programs for the homeless, and an entry-level position at his firm where she could learn and grow. The days that followed were a whirlwind of transformation, each one layering suspense with hope as Lila navigated this new world. She moved into a modest apartment, the first real home she had known in years, its walls echoing with the novelty of security. At work, she started in the mailroom, her hands sorting envelopes with the same diligence her mother had shown in the factory. But Alexander's mentors guided her, recognizing her quick mind and eagerness to learn. Challenges arose. Colleagues whispered about favoritism. Her past insecurities flared during training sessions, and nights alone brought waves of doubt crashing over her. Would she fail and return to the streets? The emotional tension mounted as Lila grappled with imposter syndrome, her heart aching with the fear that this dream could shatter. Yet, small victories accumulated, mastering computer skills, earning her first paycheck, the pride in her eyes when she bought groceries without worry. Alexander became a mentor figure, checking in with encouragement, his own life enriched by her progress. He reconnected with his children, inspired by Lila's resilience to bridge the gaps wealth had widened. As months turned into a year, the narrative arc bent toward redemption, the suspense giving way to profound emotion. Lila rose through the ranks, her innate talent for coding, discovered during late-night tutorials, landing her a developer role in Alexander's company. She volunteered at shelters, paying forward the kindness that had saved her, her story becoming a beacon for others lost in the shadows. The bond with Alexander deepened into a familial one. He walked her down the aisle at her wedding years later to a kind-hearted colleague, tears in his eyes, as he saw the woman she had become. But the heart of the tale lay in that initial invitation, a single act rippling outward like a stone in still water, proving that humanity's greatest power lies in seeing the invisible and extending a hand. Before we reach the poignant conclusion, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with what this story means to you or how kindness has touched your life. In the end, as Lila stood on the balcony of her own home, overlooking the city that once threatened to consume her, she thought back to that rainy night outside Elysium. The hunger was gone, replaced by a fullness of spirit, and in her heart, she carried the eternal gratitude for a billionaire who saw not a beggar, but a soul worth saving. Their story whispered a timeless truth. In a world of divides, one moment of compassion can rewrite destinies, leaving legacies of hope that echo far beyond the rain. If this tale of transformation and unexpected grace has stirred something deep within you, touched your heart with its raw emotion, please like, comment your thoughts, share it widely, and subscribe to Kindness Tales, because stories like this remind us all that kindness isn't just an act, it's a revolution.